So I'm in Atlanta. You live in Atlanta, but you're currently in
Birmingham, Alabama.
Due to COVID, you're helping
Correct.
family.
That's right.
And everything that's coming through in the news, especially Georgia, right? Like we're one of the states that's really starting to open up. And to many, that feels like great. We're starting to go back to normal. But if you are one of those individuals who have been furloughed or lost your job completely, it's a different situation. Even though things are starting to open back up, there's still talks of there could be a recession after this, right? Which is not what this show is about. What it's about is navigating through that. And so you put out on your Medium 14 messages your team needs to hear from you right now. And so what I wanted to do was go through some of these, because even though it feels like we're starting to venture and cross the bridge to the other side, we're not there yet. Like there's still a lot of work that needs to be done.
That's right.
So the first one is appreciation and value. And when I read that, the first thought that came to my mind was this phrase that we're using, essential workers.
Right.
And so if you're not an essential worker, really you are, right? Everyone is an essential worker. So walk us through that. Walk us through appreciation and value.
Well, the context for the document that you're referring to was me trying to think, how can I add value to people, to leaders who are struggling right now through this crisis? And I actually wrote several articles. One is, how do you talk to your customers? How do you thank your customers? And so I was trying to think about it from different angles. This one's directed for a leader to talk to their team. What are the things that your team needs to hear from you in the middle of a crisis? And I think the context is exactly what you said. At the beginning of this, we didn't know much. Mm-hmm. And now for some, it might seem like the end of this is really not the end, right? Because we're opening up to a new normal. We're going to be figuring this out for a long time. So I think these messages still resonate. We don't know. So how do you help your team continue to deliver results when you don't have answers? And I think it has to begin. And I think many leaders struggle with beginning with a message of, I care about you, because it's just not their nature. It's not that they don't care. It's just not their nature to say it. A lot of people say, how do you know I love you? Well, I fed you today. Or a leader might say, I gave you a paycheck. But you need to actually put those feelings in words, especially at times of stress. And that's why I led with that message. If you don't lead with that message, not much more that you say is going to be heard. And I know that you've heard me say this before, but your audience may not have heard me say this. One of my favorite books right now, I've read it, I finished it for the third time in January, is a book by Kim Scott called Radical Candor. She is a Google, Apple executive. She's been coached by some of the best. And her leadership lesson of that career was how to deliver the truth. And here's Kevin's version of the premise of the book, is you can't help someone grow. You can't get your team to improve their results until you're able to speak the truth to people. But if you don't speak that truth from a basis of love and care, it won't be received. And so that's the reason that this message was here, is people need to hear that you care about them before they'll hear and act on anything else you say.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I love that. I feel like it ties into the 5-to-1 of positive to negative feedback as well, right? Like in this time, you have to say it more than once that I appreciate you. You are essential to me. Because, if you are working from home, there are still mistakes being made, right? Like we're still human. Quarantine didn't change that. We just need to hear that we're valued more now in this time.
That's right. Who doesn't love to feel valued?
Right.
Especially at a time when you feel like the earth underneath you is shaking and you're not sure you'll be standing tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's the time you need to hear that. And I think from the people that I'm talking to, this crisis is bringing that out of people. A recognition that, I've been too busy. I need to pay more attention to the people around me. Not just my employees, but perhaps my peers, my family, my children. And I think saying it is as important as doing it.